Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right everybody, thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I'll let you know what I thought about them, and we always start with the pick of the week. This week's pick of the week: We Only Find Them When They're Dead, #1. Another great debut from Boom Studios, and yet another very long comic book title from Boom Studios. And don't worry, there's even more coming. Talking about things like Something is Killing the Children, Strange Skies Over East Berlin. There's even more coming. Anyway, We Only Find Them When They're Dead, #1. It's by Al Ewing and Simone DeMeo. Absolutely blew me away. I loved it. It's exactly what I want out of a comic book. It's high concept. It's got dynamic and charged artwork, and it's got brilliant and amazing, bright and luminous coloring. This is a book I absolutely adore. The basic premise of it is that there are these celestial type beings. They call them gods. Think of them like Marvel Celestials, right? And so gods exist in this world, and they actually have found these gods, but they only ever find them when they're dead. I'm not spoiling anything. It's literally the title of the book. So what the book really focuses on are these ships, and they're like surgical ships, and they're going out and they're basically, salvage ships, but they're salvaging bits and pieces of these dead celestial god beings, these entities, and it's really wild. So basically they find a Galactus out there in space and it's dead, or a celestial, and they go and they mine it for resources, right? But there's a whole lot of this world that's being built up around who are these miners in these ships. There are rules, there's like this whole thing that's being built up around there, and it's done very well. It's got a nice brisk pace to it. The artwork is absolutely stunning, especially with the coloring. The coloring is by DeMeo as well, with assists by Maria Sara Miotti. This book is freaking awesome. I know that we've all been on Boom's tail this entire year, and even last year, saying they just can't do any wrong. It seems like everything coming out from them is amazing. I'm not lying. This is another one. It's really cool. Great cosmic concepts, amazing dynamic artwork, brilliant coloring, great lettering as well. Just all around a great first issue, a great introduction to the characters, to the world, and to the concept. And I love all three. It resonated. I thought it was super strong, and it's my favorite book of the week. The pick of the week: We Only Find Them When They're Dead. Speaking of Boom, we got the wrap-up of King of Nowhere. As King of Nowhere #5 is out this week by W. Maxwell Prince, who is the writer of Ice Cream Man, Tyler Jenkins, and Hillary Jenkins, artists of books such as Grass and King of Nowhere. King of Nowhere wraps up in a very satisfying manner. The actual story wraps up pretty good, and it's decent, right? And it's kind of average. But what really helps elevate this beyond just an average comic book story, albeit slightly weird, is Prince's narration, his dialogue, the subtext that's prevalent there, and what it's saying about getting your life back together and becoming more than just the king of nowhere, the king of nothing. I really like this book. It's weird, it's quirky, it's out there. The artwork is completely suited for it. It's got a very weird, indie, unnerving type style. It's a little fluid, almost, you would say, in its line work, but I really did enjoy the series. Not one of the strongest books from Boom, but really the subtext of issue #5 really kind of got me going. I liked it. It's a satisfying ending. King of Nowhere #5. Let's jump over to DC. DC Black Label. We have Hellblazer, I'm sorry. I'm too excited for Horror Fest. Hellblazer, Rise and Fall, issue #1. Now this is special. First of all, it's another Hellblazer book at DC Black Label, so albeit we're all sad because, the Hellblazer John Constantine title by Spurrier's getting canceled. That's really unfortunate. But we do have a second little mini-series that's tying in, going right along with it. Anyway, it's not tied in. It's a completely different thing. It's written by Tom Taylor, which is really cool. In the book DCeased, Tom Taylor does a great job with the character of Constantine, so I was excited to see him do this. And you also get artwork by Derek Robertson. That's right, Transmetropolitan Derek Robertson, The Boys Derek Robertson. So I was really excited to see his take, and it's really well done. It's not rushed at all. He took the time for it, and that's one of my favorite things about the DC Black Label books, is they're not just meant to be mature or out of continuity, although they are. They're really meant to be clean, precise. They take their time with this book. They take their time with this entire line, and you can actually feel that and tell that, and they did that here. The artwork is really great. If you like Robinson, this is some of the best artwork he's pumped out in years. I absolutely love it. The writing is pretty solid. Tom Taylor knows and understands the character of Constantine, and it works. And this is a tragic story, and it's tied in a little bit with the supernatural, obviously, but I liked it. I enjoyed it a lot, and I love some of the throwbacks to previous creators, including Delano and Dillon especially. But Hellblazer, Rise and Fall #1, I really, really liked this book. Thought it was super strong. Let's stick with DC Black Label, Strange Adventures, issue #5. This, to me, was the weakest issue of the series yet. Not saying that it's bad. It's a really solid issue. But it had a lot of dialogue in it. It was excessively wordy at times, overly verbose, if you will. And it just, something disconnected for me. The artwork is still flawless and amazing, and Shaner and Garrett's, two different artists with two different styles, making one book that's incredibly cohesive and speaks as one unit. Now, I'm still liking the story, but I just don't feel like the story progressed too much in this one. You do get a nice spotlight on Alana, and that's cool, but there was a lot of stuff to get through this issue, and that's typically not the case with Strange Adventures. So this one was a little bit of a lull issue for me, but still good, and I'm very excited about that series. The Dreaming, Waking Hours, issue #2. So G. Willow Wilson and Nick Robles and company really blew me away with the first issue of Waking Hours. I thought it was a great setup for an interesting story set into the world of the Dreaming and the Sandman. And so I came back for issue #2, and once again, exactly what I enjoyed out of the first issue was evident in issue #2. Great, detailed, dense, layered artwork with excellent composition and coloring, so amazingly ethereal and organic, and it flows so well. And the story and the characters, it's really cool. I'm becoming more interested in the character of Ruin, this new nightmare who's escaped the Dreaming. That's basically the idea of this book. A new nightmare escapes the Dreaming to go into the real world, and in doing so, inadvertently shunts this woman who's like an English student or something into the Dreaming. And so you got these two things going on, but they're kind of connected, but imaginative, innovative, and exactly what you come to expect from a top-notch book set in the world of the Sandman. And I absolutely loved this issue, and I'm loving that series. DCeased, Dead Planet, issue #3. You know, I said Tom Taylor writes a good Constantine. Well, you can get it in Rise and Fall. You can also get it in DCeased, Dead Planet. This is a great series, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. Not only do you got this cool, like, zombie type thing, but it's actually done well and tragically, and you can feel every single moment of action and emotion that you're supposed to, exactly the way that the creators seem to intend that to happen. You got great artwork by Heroin, who handles the small moments and the large moments with expertise. But this is a really fun book, and in the midst of just being a cool zombie book, right, that's able to do both the fun, crazy stuff and also the really more nuanced and subtle type stuff with the dramatics. Not only that, but this is got great character work on building up legacy characters like Jonathan Kent, Damian Wayne, Cassie, for instance, Wonder Girl, now Wonder Woman, and it really focuses in on that dark universe cast like Swamp Thing, Zatanna, Constantine, and I love that type stuff. So I'm really digging this series. This one had some really cool, fun moments, some really interesting, clever type stuff, and I had a lot of fun with it. DCeased, Dead Planet, and Tom Taylor is just a great writer. And one more thing I do want to say about Rise and Fall. This doesn't feel as Vertigo-y as the Spurrier one. This one feels a little bit more like how, if they really want to integrate Constantine as a solo act in the DC universe, this is the approach more. But that's really good. Great Constantine stuff in both of these issues. Tom Taylor, amazing, pretty good. Batman #98, the fourth part of the Joker War. This issue is mostly Batman kind of talking to Alfred in his hallucinogenic state that he was left in at the end of the last issue, and it's the rematch of Punchline and Harley Quinn. And that's a very satisfying and explosive battle that had great artwork by Jorge Jimenez. He's still just doing amazing work, and it's great, epic superhero, giant, flashy artwork, but still has really nice, elegant composition and style and pacing. And seriously, James Tynion and the Force doing a great job with this series. This is a fun chapter. The Joker War is more big, and it seems like behind the scenes. Like, we know the Joker's doing all this crazy stuff, but you haven't really actually seen Joker do too much in this series. Maybe some people would see that as a fault. What right now I'm really enjoying it is that highly charged and kinetic artwork by Jimenez, and it's the understanding of the character by Tynion. And to be honest, I think Tynion ties some things in together from the King run and actually does it better. Like talking about the effect that certain things like the death of Alfred and the betrayal of Catwoman and things like that, how that all impacted Bruce. I think Tynion does it better just in a few pages here than King did in the entirety of that run. But this is a really solid run. I'm having a lot of fun with it. We're building up to the end, and I'm telling you, these last couple issues, we haven't seen a lot of Joker doing big stuff, but that's all because it's about to happen real big, especially with the finale. I'm very excited. I'm loving it. Speaking of Batman, The Adventures Continue, issue number 4, introducing the animated version of Azrael, continuing the Jason Todd plot, and there was something else at the end. What was it? There was a little bit of Mr. Freeze action. There was something. What was going on? Oh, yeah. It teases something really cool for the next couple issues, but I'm having fun with this one. If you like the Batman animated series and any iteration from the 90s, you definitely got to check this out. Really cool, just continuing that story, introducing some new characters that you haven't seen before, like Red Hood, Azrael, and Deathstroke, and some familiar faces, so that's always super cool. Shazam number 14 is here. This is the finale of Jeff Johns' Shazam run, which I will say, overall, was one of my favorite Shazam books I ever read. Now, I haven't read too much. I read a little bit of that Jeff Smith stuff. I read some of the Jerry Ordway stuff from Powers of Shazam. I read the John stuff, obviously, from the New 52. And that might be about it. Oh, yeah, I don't even think I read the Judd Winnick stuff. But this was a really cool story, and it wraps up in a really good way. It really, really does. This story could easily be Shazam 2's plot, like 100%. And I had a lot of fun with it. A little bit of a glimpse into the future. I don't think John's going to get to come back and explore any of this further, but I'm sure another writer will one day tackle it. But he's added so much to the lore and the world of Shazam, of Captain Marvel. They don't call him that anymore. That's really, really cool, and I really like it. I found it incredibly captivating. Also, you got Superboy Prime, and you know that Jeff Johns can't make a final statement at a DC main continuity book. If it may be his final one for a while, he can't just, do something without having Superman Prime out there. And of course, just leaving him out there dangling perfectly for Scott Snyder to use in the death metal stuff, which is coming up. Justice League 52. I was really impressed with Loveness's first issue, bringing in the Black Mercy, doing something really cool and epic. Great artwork. The artwork is great in here, but you just kind of get this retreaded Batman talking to his mom type thing. Now, it is cool that he's talking to his mom, because usually you see him talking to his father in these kind of situations. But you got a couple of issues this week of Batman talking to dead people in some kind of crazy made-up world, and it is just a trope that's been done for a while, and the Batman one actually handled it so much better. This one's okay. Loveness is a great writer. He's doing these little bits here and there. He does an excellent one-shot on Shazam. I think maybe get him on a Shazam relaunch. I don't know. They got a movie coming out soon. Who knows what they're going to want to do. Next up, we've got Marvel. Let's talk about Black Widow number 1. So this is the launch of the new Black Widow series, kind of tied into the idea that there should be a Black Widow movie coming in November. This was originally scheduled to come out earlier in the year, and they delayed it, but it's finally here. And it's Kelly Thompson doing a pretty decent job with the first issue of a new Black Widow series. The artwork's pretty cool, too. The artwork is by somebody, but Kelly does a great job. You don't really get too much into the character, but the actions of the character and everything like that really works. The artwork is really nice, and it's got a nice sense of style and pace and energy to it. It's Elena Casagrande, Jordi Belair on the coloring. So I did like it. I thought it was super cool. It's nothing's going to super blow you away or anything like that, but it's a pretty good stab at starting off a new Natasha series, and it has a little bit of a mystery, a mystery that's started in this one that's kind of intriguing and enough to hook me to want to come back and check it out. Of course, I know Kelly Thompson can do really great work, especially on superheroes titles at Marvel. I love her stuff on Hawkeye, on West Coast Avengers, but some stuff like Captain Marvel to me kind of gets a little bit up and down. I don't know if this one's going to be like that one, but I'm definitely into it for now to see how it's going to pan out. Usually the Black Widow series, they just kind of fizzle out for me here and there, except for that Mark Waid, Chris Somney run. That was really good stuff. But this was a pretty decent start. If you're a big Natasha fan, definitely check it out. It's a really great usage of the character. It sets up an interesting mystery, and I really did like the artwork. It's got a great sense of composition and flow of action throughout, and I really did like that. I thought it was really cool stuff. Black Widow #1 from Marvel. Also, we have Marvel Zombies Resurrection #1. So if you remember, there was a Marvel Zombies Resurrection #1 that came out before already. It was a one-shot. It was a one-shot that sets up this 4-issue miniseries. So you do kind of want to read that if you haven't already. That came out like a year ago, right? And so now we got more the continuation, and it's a little deceiving to call it Marvel Zombies Resurrection #1 again, but it just picks right up from that one shot, and it was pretty cool. I really like that one shot. It's a complete like reimagining, I should say, of the Marvel Zombies world and story, and I think it has a little bit more oomph to it, a little bit more character work in it than the original stuff did. It was kind of just goofy, right? This one's pretty good. It doesn't really get into like super creepy stuff. It tries some, maybe at times, I think, too hard to be too tragic. It doesn't quite pick up on the nuance of that Tom Taylor does in DCeased, but it was still pretty decent, and it had an ending that, if anybody knows me, I was very excited for that ending. 5-year plan, y'all. Empyre #6 is here, and this is the best thing I can say about Empyre #6. It's over. Well, not really. We still got an Avengers Aftermath, a Fantastic Four Fallout. Now, I was actually worried that for some reason they were going to do something to the Fantastic Four at the end of this story to like just throw a wrench into just having the Fantastic Four back as normal, and I don't really think that happened. It had a ending that you could see coming. It had the obvious ending. It had a fine ending, but just as an event, this didn't work for me. If this was just an Avengers Fantastic Four crossover, I'd be way more cool with that. But as an event, it got dull, it got boring, and I'm very, very thankful that because of this, the comic stoppage, that they actually, because it was coming out in such a smaller window, didn't do a lot of the tie-ins. Now, I will say this, though. If you're going to do tie-ins, do a tie-in like the Fantastic Four. This Fantastic Four 23 is an okay issue, but it directly ties into something big going on in here. So reading this along with this, you want to read this first if you care, before you read this. I didn't do that, but whatever. But it ties in. And the Captain America, the Avengers, they've really felt like nothing. Thor shows back up in this one because he went off on this quest. Now, that was supposed to be a series or a one-shot by Ron B, and it didn't get put out because when they were cutting the stuff. And I'm like, why do you have all this pointless drivel that doesn't actually tie in? And I am actually interested in seeing how Thor gets whatever crazy power he gets by the end of this issue when he just shows randomly back up. And Ron V was going to do that, and I got robbed of that. That makes me hate Empyre even more. It's an okay ending. I just know that Fantastic Four is going to be dealing with that. Can we just get Zdarsky on Fantastic Four, please? Wolverine, issue #5 is here, and I'm loving this story. It's into the vampire stuff. You got Omega Red, you got Dracula, you got Wolverine captured. They're using his blood in a very interesting and cool way that I don't think I've ever quite seen used in the comic book. Bogdanovic's artwork is absolutely amazing. It's got elements of Greg Capullo, but still has its own definition and style to it. It's not as busy as some of Capullo's stuff has been, though in recent years he's gotten a little bit more concise. But I love this cat's artwork. I really like this approach with Wolverine. I think Benjamin Percy knows what he's doing. Is that Matt Wilson on the coloring? It does look like it could be Matt. Look at Dracula there. This is great stuff. I really like the artwork. I really like the story. It's not trying too hard to be like doing any kind of groundbreaking, game-changing Krakoan type stuff. It just gives us, yeah, it's Matt Wilson. It just gives us a really great Wolverine story, and we got Omega Red and Dracula, and I'm so damn excited. Cable #4 is here, and I find myself enjoying this book immensely. I'm enjoying it a lot. Like Phil Noto's artwork, it's clean, and it gets the job done. Nothing super impactful about it, but it works. In the story, there's nothing super impactful about that either. And if on paper, I would think that this really happy, younger, more flirtatious version of Cable would really kind of annoy me. But I'm kind of into it in a weird, like, Zach Morris way. How do you turn Cable into, like, a Zach Morris type character? Not quite like him, but maybe more like a Parker Lewis. But I really like it. I like this book. I like what they're doing with the Space Knights and the sword, and they're setting some stuff up already. And they have some really interesting revelations and new twists on the death of OG Old Man Cable by Kid Cable. That's pretty damned exciting. New Mutants is here with issue number 11. Is it 11? It's 12. It's 12. This book has been lagging on me lately. This was a fantastic issue. I really like this issue. It's a one-shot story, though it is setting up some stuff, taking some stuff that happened a few issues ago, setting up what's to come, and that's cool. It's nice to see that connected material from Ed Brisson and company. The artwork's pretty solid. I thought that was a bit cleaner in this issue. Not perfect. Not, you know, you're not going to write home to mom about it or nothing, but if you write home to mom about comic books, more power to you. That's a really cool relationship to have. My mom didn't really read comic books, and so I would just ramble. She would. Anyway, this was actually a really solid issue, and Glob fans, Dylan, I'm talking to you, my Glob bro. Glob fans, you definitely want to read this issue. A nice spotlight on him and some nice work done on the character. New Mutants number 12 really impressed me, and that was a book that I was like, maybe this is the first X book I just stopped reading. But no, not right now. Not if they keep doing what they were doing there. Hawkeye Freefall issue number 6. This is the finale of the miniseries by Matthew Rosenberg, Otto Schmidt. The artwork feels a little bit more rushed than it did in the previous issues. The story kind of feels a little bit rushed towards its ending and conclusion. It's an interesting ending. You got some bullseye on Hawkeye action, and that's always exciting. And the artwork is still got the nice sense of, like, you know, energetic action, you know, spreads and things like that. And so that's cool. But it just was okay. I think overall, like, this could have been a more promising book, and it was okay. But they do hit some nice human moments in this issue with Clint. But this is the wrap-up, and I think if you've liked the series, I think you will be satisfied by the ending. I was satisfied with the ending. I just thought that it felt a bit rushed to get to artistically and through the story. Issue number 6, though, out this week. Speaking of issue number 6's, Guardians of the Galaxy issue number 6. This is the book that I really usually enjoy while I'm reading it, but then I kind of forget about it, and then when I have to read it again, I'm like, oh, I don't want to. It seems like it's always a chore to get through, right? But then when I'm actually reading it, I'm enjoying it. I really love the last issue. I did not like this issue. This issue was filled with some tropes. It just had some cliches. There's some weird moments in there that I'm like, I don't know if that's necessarily how that would go. But it's okay. It's kind of like Nova being all sad and talking about his relationship with Gamora and Peter Quill, and I guess they're trying to, you know, the Peter Quill stuff. I don't know. It's. I may stop it after this issue. I don't know, because Al Ewing does surprise me, especially when Cabal's on the artwork. Now we got Takara on the artwork here, and it's fine and it's okay, but there's just nothing. This one was just really boring, and I felt like a chore to get through. But when Cabal's on it, man, I don't know. I don't know if I can be talked out of not reading it, but I don't know. I don't really remember it so much sometimes. But anyway, let's jump over to Image. Inkblot number 1 is a brand new one from Image. It's a fantasy book. It's about these worlds and this portal that opens up, and then this woman gets like this cat called Inkblot. I don't even really remember exactly what it was all about. The artwork's okay, and it's got some cool lore that it's trying to set up, and it's got a cat in it, and so that's always really freaking cool to me. But this issue I found kind of dull. It didn't grab me. It wasn't captivating. So it was really nothing that, like I said, I barely even remember the setup of the story, because it was just kind of there, and it didn't really do much for me. And I had heard some rumblings about Inkblot being good, so I was looking forward to it. Coffin Bound issue number 6, though, bruh, this did not let me down. This is an amazing book. I just talked to Zach from Comics Bookcase last night here on the channel, and we were talking about this book. And I mentioned the Sandman meets Grindhouse thing again. And Zach said that's perfect, because it's got the qualities of a Sandman book at times, meaning that on any page you can have poetry and you can have really great, ideas and themes about existence and being and morality, all kinds of really deep thoughts. Meanwhile, it's a very dirty, grindhousey book. It's all about action and sex and violence, and I'm loving it. And it's dark and it's twisted, and it will rot your soul, and I loved it. Some new, interesting ideas in here. In this story, there's this idea that, so there are these people, they're like the last church pretty much in this world, and their god is like heroin or something, so they have to like inject God into them, and they're dealing with that, and it's really crazy, weird, wild stuff. I know I've gotten a lot of people onto this book lately. Some of them have been confused, but that's okay. It's right to be confused. This is a book that really, is great to indulge yourself in just reading over and over again. You'll always pick up something more. It's out there, it's wild, and I guarantee you, no matter what you think about the book, there ain't nothing like it out there. Coffin Bound number 6. What an amazing book. Almost pick of the week. Seriously, almost. Firepower number 3 is here. That's right. Robert Kirkman, Chris Samnee, Matt Wilson. Great action. But this one, not so much action. You get a little bit of stuff. You get more of the character work in this one and more of the building up of this cat and his new family and then building up the threat that's to come. So it's one of those placeholder issues, but there's a lot of important stuff that happens. But with the last couple issues, especially being very action heavy, this one, not quite so much, but it does focus in on that family, on that relationship, building up what's going on there and the threat. And so far, I'm still loving it. Samnee is a great artist. Wilson's a great colors. And Kirkman is winning me over. And any problem I had ever with his art, with his writing, that is not found in Firepower yet by me. Anything I don't like about his writing is not in Firepower. I love it. That's a really great book. Bitterroot number 10 is here. This wraps up the second story arc, and it does it in a really big and majestic and bombastic type way. I have a lot of fun with this one. Sanford Green's artwork, oh my goodness, I just could stare at his pages for hours. David F. Walker, Chuck Brown, they do a great job of taking these characters, and Green's a big part of the book too. Just taking these characters to a moment, and even though only 10 issues and one special has happened, this book just has ramped up and it widened its scope. And it already had a wide scope, but it's widened it out even more, and I love it. I think it's a great book, and horror fans definitely need to be reading this one. Bitterroot number 10. Sea of Stars returns with the beginning of the second arc. This is issue number 6. Sea of Stars is one I remember really liking, but I read this one and I was so lost. Now, the artwork was still great, but I was like, where are we at in the story? And then the story even starts at a point and then goes back towards the end. And I got really lost and confused. And that's mostly on me. I need to do a reread of 1 through 5 and then 6 again before issue 7 comes out for sure. Because this is a book I really like. But this issue kind of left me confused. So I can't really say anything other than it confused me. But it wasn't because the book was executed poorly. It's because I didn't remember apparently what the hell was going on. Lost Soldiers issue number 2 is here. A little bit of a difficult read at times just because it seems like it's not making sense, and then it makes sense, and it's using images and some symbolism in a very powerful way. So issue number 1 I had to read twice, so I'm looking forward to reading this one again. You get this a lot with Alesh Kott's work, is there's a lot of meaning and symbolism thrown into his stuff and a lot of things for emotional impact, and so I felt the impact even though I wasn't quite understanding certain things about the story, because it doesn't present itself as being incredibly clear, because it's much more subtle on that. And I think Kott has always in his work cared more about making you feel a certain way than making you understand exactly why you're feeling that way. So I'm looking forward to reading this one again before I do my top 10 on Thursday morning. But Lost Soldiers number 2, I think if you were intrigued by 1, you definitely owe it to yourself to check out issue number 2. If you didn't like 1 at all, don't get issue number 2. And finally, from Image, let's talk about Ice Cream Man, second print of issue number 20. I don't usually talk about second prints. I'm not usually into all that stuff or just cover, like going after covers. But, I mean, do you blame me? Hey, let's talk about this. Dark Horse is back in full. We got a new series launching, Spy Island, a Bermuda Triangle mystery. This one's written by Chelsea Kane, and the artwork is by Metternich, McCall, Rosenberg, Caramanga's on there. It's basically the team from the last half of Man-Eaters, pretty much the entire team of Man-Eaters. So it's done in a very stylistic and interesting type way, but it's a really cool story, and I found myself really into it. There were moments where I was like confused, but then it all came together, and that's something that Kane did really well in Man-Eaters, was using different ways to get information about the story across, and she does so in here, but not quite as much, or quite as obnoxiously at times, and I really liked it. It's basically about Spy Island. It's this island in the Bermuda Triangle, and the Bermuda Triangle's got all kinds of crazy shit going on in it, right? I mean, they're talking about mermaids, and they're talking about portals and Atlantis remains and all kinds of stuff like that, right? And there's this island that a lot of like diplomats go to and all kinds of stuff. They have fundraisers there, but it's basically an island filled with spies. And so you get all these spies that basically have island fever in the Bermuda Triangle, and it goes and deals and flips around some spy story tropes. and it does some really interesting stuff, and I had a lot of fun with it. It wasn't one of the super best books of the week, but it was one of the most original books of the week, and I found myself rather enjoying it, especially by the time I got to the end. There were moments through where I wasn't quite sure about it, but by the time I got to the end, I was very satisfied with this experience. I thought they did a good job with that one. We have Alien, the original screenplay, issue number 2. Really liked this issue. Issue number 1 was cool, and it's neat because you can see what they kept in the movie throughout the new revisions of the script, and this is based on the original script by Dan O'Bannon. And some things are different, and in this one you get the whole face hugger stuff, and it's handled way different, and this has some more interesting ideas. Not more interesting than the movie, but just it adds more interesting ideas to the concept of this movie. So I'm having a lot of fun with this. If you're a hardcore Alien fan, I think you don't want to miss this one. Just like the Alien 3 original screenplay they did, it's a neat way to kind of see like an alternate take on what could have been on your movie. We also have Bang number 3 from Dark Horse. Now, I was really worried because it's been so long since I read Bang number 1 and 2. I was really worried because I was like, I don't really remember much except for it's kind of James Bondy, right? So I was really kind of worried that I wouldn't be into this issue. This issue was great, blew me away. In fact, I would say it's strong enough in that aspect. If you'd never got to read issue 1 or 2 of Bang, you could read this one and enjoy it because it's introducing a new character. They all seem to be one-and-done stories, but all tied into this larger tapestry that Matt Kent and company are building up into. But this introduces a new person, kind of a James Bondy spy-type character, connected to technology in a car in a very interesting way and a very clever twist at the end that I really, really like. Like I said, they each act as their own spy one-shot stories, but an overarching thing obviously is being built up to. But I love this one. It was a great issue. Handling the action, some really inventive and really clever new spins on some of the spy tropes and stuff. I really, really liked Bang this week. From AWA Upshot, we got a new one, Grendel, Kentucky. Grendel, Kentucky is set in Kentucky, in a town called Grendel. And just as the name would have you imply, this town has a monster. So after these people's parents or dad dies, they go back to their town. It's kind of dealt in a little bit. They're like kind of like poor. They're dealing with in crime. They're not necessarily poor. They're just they're like mafia in Dixie. It's like Dixie. It's like Justified a little bit. It's like they're basically the criminals in Justified, and there's a monster in their town. And it was pretty interesting. The story took a while to really get going. They spent a lot of time with these characters, so that made the weight of what is actually happening in the book on the characters. It made it feel very real and palpable. The artwork by Tommy Lee Edwards is the star of the show for me, because even when it had a weak pace in the story, his art kept me interested. I love his scratchy, rough style. He does a great job with horror and some of the exterior shots and just the emotion and the weight of the setting as well. And I thought it was really, really solid, and another really solid debut from AWA. Aftershock's got one. It's Lonely Receiver number 1. This one's written by Zach Thompson with artwork by Jen Hickman, Simon Bolin as well. Okay, first of all, I really liked this book, but this was the most challenging read of the week. This was really weird to get into at first. It starts off, and it's about these two women in a relationship, and there's a breakup. And then, so this is obviously set in some kind of future or something. So, basically, she gets her phone, and her phone now, at this time in reality, can ask you a series of questions and grow a mate for you. So she grows a new girlfriend that's an AI, like a fully functional AI, grown, that's based on what she wants and needs, and then it delves into their relationship, and it gets surreal, it gets cerebral, it's really, really fantastic. It was difficult to completely wrap your head around everything that was going on. It's got a bit of a disjointed style to it, but I think it actually helps with the concept of making you feel like you're in a weird episode of The Twilight Zone. But I really liked it, and it's got some really twisted stuff in it. Really solid, and another one that I'm definitely probably going to reread as soon as this video is over. From Aftershock, also The Man Who Effed Up Time, issue number 5. This actually came out last week. My shop was shorted, We finally got our copies. So this is the end of the story. My initial prediction was wrong, but I'm cool with that. It had a nice, satisfying wrap up to the story. I think the concept and the opening shots of this book were better than how everything resolved out, but it was a very fun and quirky book, and I've enjoyed it all the way through, and I thought the ending was particularly solid. Disaster Inc. number 3 lost me completely. So it's about, you know, these people that lead these, you know, young kids or whatever, you know, they pay them money and they take them to like a dangerous place, like a place where was it Fukushima or whatever, with the nuclear stuff. Anyway, it gets supernatural, and I was excited for the supernatural twist and turn, but when that happens, it completely lost me. I didn't like it. I wasn't engaged. The artwork was cool at times, but for the most part, I found it to be quite dull. So I think I'm done with that one. It's probably good for me to cut a couple titles here and there. No Heroin, issue number 2 is here. Big, hyped up book. I thought issue number 1 was decent. It was a decent enough idea to start, and I wanted to see where they were going to develop it further. I wasn't quite sold on the artwork. I'm less sold on the artwork in issue number 2. I did not like the artwork in here, and I did not like the story. I didn't like where it went. I didn't like some of the jumps. At times, there are moments where I was sort of compelled for this character, but then throughout most of it, though, I just wasn't dealing with it. There's only one more issue. This has been a big hit. Of course, it's got a low print run. It is a book from Source Point, and I thought issue number 1 showed some promise, but for me, it just lost that in issue number 2. I just wasn't quite digging it that much. From IDW, we got Transformers, My Little Ponies, Friendship in Disguise, issue number 2. I loved it. Loved it. This book's going to make the top 10 again. It really is. This book is fun. It's got 2 one-shot stories. In one, you got Spike and Grimlock against Devastator, and the other one, we got Soundwave and and Pinkie Pie. Come on. And I'm loving this. It's so much fun. It takes the best of both worlds and it merges them together, and it gives you something silly that's not taking itself too seriously. This book knows exactly what it is. It's a Transformers My Little Pony book, and it embraces that, and it succeeds because of it. We also got the Star Trek one-shot called Hell's Mirror. So this is basically the story of Khan in the Star Trek Mirror universe, you know, where the Federation's actually the Empyre, the Terran Empire, and everything's evil, and Spock's got the goatee. So after Spock defects at the end of the Mirror Mirror episode, this kind of follows him. Khan gets involved, Kirk gets involved, and it's okay. I mean, as a big Trek guy, I liked it, and I appreciated it, but it didn't blow me away as a comic book at all. Not many of these Star Trek books do, but I just love them because I love Star Trek. And if you love Star Trek, you definitely want to get this one because it's cool. Just a one-shot. So that's what I read this week. That's what I thought about it. What are you reading? What are you digging? What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out the video, and we really do appreciate all the support. So thank you so much. Please do like, share, subscribe, click the notification bell so you don't miss a single video. Horror Fest is coming. That's right. Hashtag Horror Fest is coming. We're excited. September 11th, 9 p.m. live here on the channel Friday night. That's when Horror Fest starts. We're going to be talking about Lost Boys. And y'all, anybody that follows the live streams or the movie reviews knows that we are incredibly excited for the lineup this year, and we're going to really get into some horror comics and have fun live shows with you to celebrate the Halloween season anyway. Thank you so much. Please do check us out at popculturephilosophers.com for podcasts, blogs, and a whole lot more. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading.